Now, I could just sit here for the next hour and absolutely cook Candace over this latest mental break, but I'm not going to do that today. As a matter of fact, I pray that y'all have had enough of an insight to realize that that has never been the point of why we talk about her to begin with. Sure, that criticism is oftentimes brought up. She's a fraud, a grifter, a liar, liable, dangerous in the things she says. But I pray that we see her as a human who is lost and is in need of genuine salvation and is at a point where essentially God has likely given her over to a reprobate mind. She has gotten warning after warning, just as many of us do. She has gotten messenger after messenger, including many of y'all out there. She has either ignored, she has insulted, she has shut down, she has denied and justified herself. But in all of that, she is still one of God's creation, and God wants her back in the same way he wants any of us back. And so today, I got time today, but what I will be getting into is really a warning for the rest of us. Because though it is her we're watching and her downfall and her unrepented sin, her pride that has led her in this place, any of us could be in this space. So the first verse I want to start off with is in the book of Proverbs. And we're going to be getting into this video, the video in question. Believe me, we will be getting into it, but not for the purpose of just cooking, sis, but instead, to show you how far things can really go when you are given over to that reprobate mind. So anyway, I put together a little something for y'all today, and I will make this available at some point in time for everybody out there if you want to download this. Otherwise, you can see the show notes in the caption below. So we want to start off with Proverbs 24, verse 17. And this reads, "Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and do not let your heart be glad when they stumble." So that's the spirit that I want us to come from. We're not here to clap on. Well, maybe some people will out there, but for my brothers and sisters in Christ, we're not here to do that. We're here to realize that this could be any of us, including myself, including you, the person who never thought you could find yourself in a place of not just compromise. That's one thing, but I'm talking about a place where you are so prideful. You are so filled with resentment. You're so filled with anger or whatever it is that is unresolved that you end up in a place where you are seemingly out of control at that point, right? It's turned into a psychosis of sorts, manifests itself in these mental illnesses, etc. So now let's jump into, I named this section Unrepented Sin. And what I really believe is that at the core of all of this is the sin of pride. We are in Proverbs 16, verse 18. And this reads, "Pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall." So usually, we say pride comes before the fall. But the whole verse is pride goes before destruction, which sounds even worse, and a haughty spirit before the fall. Any of us can find ourselves in a place where we are prideful, where we are not willing to, incapable of receiving correction. And I believe that's where it starts, right? This is the original sin. I'm talking about before Eden. This is the sin in the heavenlies of heavens. Lucifer, I will become like God. He wanted the worship. He wanted the praise. He was filled with himself. He saw himself as equivalent to his creator, the creation becoming the equivalent of the creator. Now, some out there may say, well, what's prideful about just asking questions? She was just asking questions. When you get to a place where you know everything, nobody can correct you, and you have this self-perpetuating echo chamber that you now exist in. And all of us are in some level of an echo chamber. But if you can't receive outside voices, outside criticism, you won't be able to receive the correction of God, period. And so you will find yourself in a place where you are becoming more and more hard-headed and hard-hearted. Now, I believe that along with pride, atop of pride has been anger. There's been resentment. There's been a sense of, this is really in the narcissistic sort of collective of personality traits, but you feel that you're not being worshiped or praised in the way that you should be. Lucifer can be seen as the ultimate narcissist, the narcissist of all narcissists, covert and overt, depending on the moment that you may catch. And so these are the characteristics and the attributes that have been displayed by Candace and that have been displayed by many of us when we find ourselves in destruction. When things aren't going right in our lives, many times we can point to something that we are or are not doing, some that we're listening to or not listening to. Unrepented sin is a gateway in our lives, period. And I know I got some, non-Christians who tune in, etc. This is going to be just as powerful for y'all as anybody else. Believe you me, unless you're somebody who is so justified in your own darkness that you can't even see it, then in that case, you will likely find yourself in the very same shoes of the woman in question. So, all right. So next we have a section titled Hardened Heart. And the first verse I have here is in Romans. This is Romans 1, verse 28. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind to do those things which are not fitting. Now, some can point to just the simple context of this verse in one context, but I believe this to be principle is that when you are somebody who continues to resist God in his fullness, you can call yourself a Christian all you want. You can call yourself a banana suit and you'll make your way into heaven because you believed in Christ and you obeyed and you followed and you loved. Absolutely. You can call yourself a Christian and have Christ is King all over your platforms, and you can still hear those most terrifying words, "Depart from me, you worker of iniquity. I never knew you. I don't know you." The title we give ourselves does not matter. It is what sort of relationship do we have with our alleged savior? Because for some folks, you'll look at him and you won't even know. They look the same today as they did 20 years ago when they said that they went up there and said the magic words and got saved. I'm telling you right now, there are folks who believe themselves because they said something 20 years ago, but there's no fruit that has been produced from their life, which we will get into because we've got time today. Now, followed up in the same book of Romans, we have Romans 9, verse 18, that reads as follows. So then he has mercy on whoever he wills, and he hardens the heart of those whomever he wills. So it's always been an interesting idea to me because as early as in the book of Exodus, you have the hardening of Pharaoh's heart, right? And it says God hardened his heart. And, different scholars have different ways of interpreting that. But how I'm going to take it for this moment, and, I know some of y'all scholarly types might feel some type of way, but this is how I'm going to use it in this moment, is I believe that God would give you over to a hardened heart, or allow the hardening of your heart, or use that hardened heart because you yourself already have a hard heart. You have chosen to be prideful. And again, God will use even that which the devil uses for evil for good. So all things will be used in the making of this here production. A hardened heart is the choice of the individual. Pharaoh started with a hard heart. He was haughty. He was prideful. He believed himself to be a God incarnate, as every Pharaoh essentially believed. And so when it was time for him to submit to the true living God, his creator, he simply he couldn't give it until it took for this man, and even beyond the point of him losing his most prized possession outside of his own ego, which was his son, which is an extension of his own ego. Right? I'm not saying that hyperbolically. It's a real story actually happened. I happen to be one of those folks who believes in that word. So you have the hardening of Pharaoh's heart. Do you think it is only Pharaoh whose heart can be hardened? I think not, because here we have in Romans, in the New Testament, we have, so then he has mercy on whoever he wills, and he hardens the heart of whoever he will. He will give you over to that hardened heart. And what would be produced from it is all the things that come from a life lived without God's full presence and manifestation in your life. You will have destruction. You will have disaster. You will fall from a place of grace. And I believe Candace was given a platform, as I have been given a platform. I will always let this be known. This is God's platform. How did you grow so fast? Because I guess he knew I wouldn't shut up about him, so he brought up my platform. I don't know. It's him. Whatever purpose he has, he has. He can give it as fast as he can take it. The same as this life. I'm not the owner of this life. I know that is flabbergastery for many of us who are given over to even just a little bit of that pride, right? A little bit of that self-godhood, but it's the facts. It's the reality. I've been given the platform. She was given a platform, and she was given that platform to essentially be salt and light in the earth, to tell the truth, big T truth and the little T truths, as opposed to creating her own truths. When you catch yourself up in the world of conspiracy, etc., it is mostly because you have made your own paranoia. You have made your own distrust. You have created your own need for salaciousness, drama, your own need to perpetuate negativity or whatever it may be. Some folks, it's because it feeds into something that was already underlying. And then others, they're wide open, they're susceptible, and they get sucked into this. And that's why, again, I continuously address the cult of Candace Owens, because those people, many of them, could otherwise find their way to the actual truth, but instead they cling on to the so-called truth. They have more conspiracy theories saved up in their brain than they do scripture, and they call themselves Christians. Don't get mad at me. I am just simply the messenger, okay? Now, next we have the book of John, was that John 12, verse 40. He has blinded their eyes and has hardened their heart, lest they see with their eyes and understand with their heart and turn, and I would heal them. So this is Christ speaking in context of those who are hearing the message of God, or the message of the Messiah, Jesus, who is God made flesh, and they can't hear him, right? There's even a point in time, and we'll get into it, where they're seeing these wonders, these miracles, they're hearing the word with the authority of God, and yet still their unbelief remains. They choose to be haughty. They are prideful. They're jealous and envious, specifically for, let's say, the Pharisees and the scribes, etc., the high priests. They were jealous of this man and the sort of respect and reverence that he was getting. And they would not accept that he was the very Messiah that was spoken of in their own supposed texts. That right there is not reserved for a Pharisee. We too can be blinded. We too can have our ears, our eyes, and our hearts closed off because we have become so prideful. The reason why it's always stemming from pride is because pride is the baseline foundational point of access or entry. If we go, I deny pride and instead I humble myself. You never want God to do the humbling for you. You want to take care of that one by yourself. You want to humble yourself, because if you got to get humbled, you're not going to like the way that it shows up. And so when you humble yourself, which means to say, God, I don't know. That was the hardest thing for me to do. And yet it was the freedom, or the first time I experienced a genuine freedom in my life of all these burdens that I placed upon myself. Everything was a task. Everything was mounting pressures. Every little detail and speck of my life had to be sorted out and organized, or else. And that hit a breaking point. And that breaking point was either me going, I'm just going to tough it out because I know better, or me going, God, please help me. I know I've strayed away from you. And this is really what I said in my heart of hearts not too long ago. I said, God, show me who you are. I was raised in the church. I ran from you. I ran from you. Show me who you are, and I will serve you with all I am. If you are who you say you are. But at the very least, I know that there is a God, there's a creator, there's something outside of me that knows better than I do about these aspects of my life that I feel I have no control over. And there he was. So, just a window of humility. That tiny. And this is coming from a guy who wrote a book and unpublished the book called Doing Me Guilt-Free. A guide on how to be as prideful and self-absorbed essentially as humanly possible under the guise of self-love. Let's get into this last one here in hard-heartedness, which is, for they did not understand about the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. So that was in reference to, when Christ feeds the multitudes and his disciples are seeing this miracle unfold. And even still after that, they did not discern certain things. They did not discern who he truly was and still had unbelief, right? Why is it that you still fear, the storm? Why is it that you still fear there's a ghost on the water, whatever? Why is it that you're still afraid when you've already seen me operate? You've already seen my power. How many of us have been in that place where God has done so many things? Life itself is the very substance of miracle. And yet we doubt, we fear. That was something that really pulled me away from the church early on in my life, is I would see a lot of hypocrisy where people call themselves Christians, but they were always so timid and afraid, and I didn't understand that. And I said, wait, so you believe in this God that is so massive and so, grand and is the creator of all things, but you're still afraid? And it's not to say, just you're not going to be afraid. That's why it said, 300 plus times in the word, do not be afraid, do not be afraid. But it's to say, if you're living in this fear and you're not even going to take a step forward, God called you to record videos and you're not going to do it, to open that business, to take that trip and go speak or witness to that person, and you're not going to do it. And it's like, What kind of God are you serving? How little is this God? How feeble and weak is this God if you're not willing to step out in boldness and know that he is there with you? And so again, when you humble yourself, because pride is really fear. If we want to get down to it, pride for us as human beings, I can't speak for Beelzebub, I can't speak for Lucifer, but I can speak for us as humans. Pride comes from a place of fear. As much as it masquerades itself as confidence and bravado and, in a sense of arrogance, in essence, it is fear. I am afraid. And therefore, I put on this veneer. It's like narcissism. Narcissism at its core is a shame-based disorder. It is an individual who believes they're not enough, and so they have to overcompensate in the early stages of life, likely induced by trauma, neglect, whatever it may be. They always have to feel as if the world is at their beck and call, is worshiping them, is the whole entire universe is revolving around them. The people in their lives are not individuals, but instead they're just simply entities that are part of their own being. It gets real deep, but at its core, for us, it's fear. Do not be afraid. How can you trust in this life? Well, you can only trust if you are tapped into that which is trustworthy, not yourself. You can't even trust yourself to keep your promise from 10 seconds ago. You said you weren't going to eat that and you ate it. You said you weren't going to call that person and you called him. You said you weren't going to text him and you texted him. We need God. We need our creator. We need our engineer. We don't understand the software. We don't. We pretend we do. Pride. We want to seem as we do. Pride. But then that ends up in the very same place. Destruction, haughtiness, a fall. My God. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into pride. Man, I apologize if there's some lag. I'm still figuring all these little pieces out, but my mouse is appearing on my iPad half the time, which would be really cool if it wasn't problematic right now. But let us continue. One monkey won't stop a circus. So next we have the book of James. What is that? Chapter 4, verse 6. God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. One more time. God opposes the proud. He is in opposition to the proud, but he shows favor to the humble. We're just going to speed run through all of these and then bring it together. This is Proverbs 11, verse 2. Pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility, there's that word, comes wisdom. Dear God, I don't know. You know better. Here comes his wisdom. Now you're open to his wisdom. His wisdom is perfect. Our wisdom is foolishness. I used to think speech like this was self-deprecating. It strips one of their self-esteem. And, but really, I feel such a relief. Like I told you, freedom, a weight off me like, oh my God, in the literal context, oh my God, you are going to take care of this. God, you. Oh, it was always supposed to be you because I don't get it. I'm the creation. Oh, so I enjoy this thing far more when I give it to you and I trust you with it. Oh, so you want me to leave this job or leave this business or leave this whatever it is, abomination that I might be a part of, and you want me to follow you because you know that it's going to be better off for me. Oh, and it doesn't mean, don't get this twisted. It doesn't mean following him is going to be peaches and daisies. Not in this life. What is promised is likely persecution. There's going to be a joy that is beyond understanding. There's going to be a peace that is beyond our own comprehension because that's his peace. But we will experience his fullness in everlasting life on the hereafter. We do not store up our treasures here. I love that I can get all this and be able to present this message in such a way to y'all. This is a delight and a pleasure for me. And I love it. And I love that God has given me this gift, even though sometimes I'm like, okay, God, you really want me to talk about that? Yikes. Can't we do Mr. Beast videos? That's not why I called you. I didn't call you to do I Show Speed. I didn't call you to do that. I called you to get into my word. I said, okay. So he gave me what he gave me for the sake of his purpose here in this life. But we store up our treasures in the here on after. That's why it's not a bad thing to want the things of this life or to have a appreciation of them. But when they become your possessor, where is the room in our lives for God actually? Where does he fit into that equation? There's no room for him because you got so much. You are a spiritual hoarder. You're a spiritual hoarder. How are we going to find space in here for the occupancy of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords when you got so many conspiracies in you, sis? And again, we're going to get into that video at the very end because it's not the priority. I don't want that to be the main focus. And truth be told, some folks out there, it's not for you to watch, but I want you to watch and listen to this video, to this message. That video at the end, if you can stand or not stand her, that's up to you. At the very least, I could say her skin is looking good. Skin is good. I can say that. I'm looking directly at the video right here, right now, right here. I could say that, good for sis. It's just now in that little hiatus. We need to come back to a point of reverence for God, not the God of self, but the true living God. Okay. What we got here? See, I done got my mouse back onto the Lord have mercy. We will figure this out. We gonna be all right. Okay. We have Proverbs 16 verse 5. The Lord detests all the proud of heart. He detests. Look, the Lord opposes the proud. The Lord detests. Somewhere else it says it is an abomination unto the Lord. The Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this. They will not go unpunished. My God, that right there by itself should be terrifying for you. So not only are you going to suffer in front of man, but there is also a punishment for those who are prideful, who live in pride, and those who live in pride, because you can't have the Spirit of God in you and you're also living in pride. Again, there's a lot of folks, they call themselves Christians. They had every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday 3 times on Sunday at church. They part of this club, the bakery club at the church. They part of the knitting society at the church. They got all this going on, all the religion in the world. But their heart is haughty. They're self-righteous. How do I know? Because I had these hidden sins of the heart. God has been working and have worked through these with me. The spirit of me. Haughtiness. Looking up at yourself and looking down at everybody else. You can't be told. Nobody can tell you nothing. You know who's got a problem with this? I'm gonna say it straight up. Dear black folks all throughout America, Africa, you can include, West Africa. The spirit of can't nobody tell me nothing is your destruction. If you cannot listen to the white man or any other man who doesn't look like you, or somebody who may not have the same political views as you, but has the truth of God living in them, if you can't listen to them, you're going to fall under that punishment too. And I don't want that for anybody, not Candace. I don't want it for the most savage of savages right now. I don't. And truth be told, God never wanted that for us anyway. He said this was reserved for the devil and his angels. This was reserved for those who are in the glory of God and rebelled against a holy God in his presence, knowing him. That's who this was reserved for. The enemy of our souls, the one who was the true enemy. It was reserved for him. And I know there's folks out there, they don't believe there's hell. They just believe, oh, well, I'm going to be in the dirt and that's going to be the end of it. It's not. Jesus never talked about hell. Jesus talked about the place where they will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. In one single chapter, I think it was in Matthew, he said it 3 times. 3 times, all in different parables. Boom, boom, boom. You'll be cast into outer darkness, cast into fire, into the fire that is not quenched. And then we go into Revelation, into the lake of fire, where hell will be thrown into the lake of fire. This is why y'all got rid of y'all old school pastors, because you wanted to be tickled in the ears. I get it now. When I was a youngster, I didn't understand, why is it that they don't want to listen to these men? Isn't that what the Bible's saying? Now, as a grown man, I'm like, oh, y'all didn't want that. Y'all don't want this. This is the dude you're trying to get out. You want the liberal pastor. You want the alphabet pastor, the L's, the G's, the B's, the T's, the Q's, and all of these. That's what y'all want, huh? Y'all want to be tickled in the ear. Not y'all. I know y'all are different, but we got folks out there. They say, no, I don't like. Look, they go through the Bible like this. They go through the Bible like this. Where is it? Oh yes, Majesty. Oh yeah, I like that one. I like that. We don't like that. Obedient. No. No. Okay. Where's my favorite? Oh, there's John. For God so loved the world. The end. Oh wait. Thou shalt not judge. The end. No. Wait. There's a rest of the verse. No. I don't need that. They're picking and choosing, taking what they want and do not want. You erase hell from this. Look what you. Okay. And this is a little bit of a deviation. Trust me, we're going to get right back onto this train, the Underground Railroad. But look at this. The last words in the book of Revelation. This is Revelation 22, verse 18. I warn everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds to them, God will add to him the plagues described in this book. And if anyone takes away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God will take away his share in the tree of life and in the holy city, which are described in this book. You telling me if I go through Revelation and I say one of them things right there is not actually, and so I want to make a different version because I like the version that, oh, no. You're telling me I'm about to be thrown into that lake of fire, the one that you, yeah. This is why, and this isn't, a necessary thing, but I've listened to quite a few people's experiences of experiencing hell because I had a similar experience when I was still on the dope. I was on the goomers, on some hallucinogens, and safe to say, that's what got me off of drugs. I have been from 14 to around 19. On September 1st, 2015, I went completely cold turkey, sober, done. I went through an experience so horrifying. And yet even then I didn't understand fully, didn't comprehend fully what had happened. And I've been saved out of that. And now in hindsight, I'm like, okay. So them folks who have them stories and they just start bursting out in tears because they're explaining hell and their experiences there. They're having these near-death experiences, whatever it is. Oh, well, they're just hallucinating and they're just, okay. If you want to live in a world of head in the sand, it's not going to change the circumstance. It's not going to change the truth. It's just you got your head in the sand while life is passing you by. If you've had that type of experience, you can't shut up. And that's the place where I'm at with I done been saved from too much, folks. Now, next we have what I have labeled the tongue. The power of the tongue, which is in the world that I reside in and dwell in. I mean, all of us do, almost technically. Even if you're not able to speak out loud, you still have internal dialogue and conversations. So here we have in the book of James, which back in the day, I used to hate that book. I used to despise the book of James because of this reason. It was always trying to tell me about my mouth and gossip and this and that. I said, I don't want to hear it. So this reads, and this is James 3, verse 5-6. The tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. This little thing right here is dangerous. Nobody knows that more than the man or woman who was given a voice, misused it, and is on the other side of destruction right now. Nobody knows it better than the person who used this and is now in a prison cell or is in hell. Nobody understands it more. But yet we think we can get away with using this any old way. This is me. If you go back on my channel just a couple of months ago and you just go all the way back, you say, oh man, this young man's, his tongue was on fire. I had the right intentions. I believed because I was righteous in my own eyes. I believed I was doing the right thing, but no, my tongue was unbridled. My tongue was unkept. Candace Owens is a perfect representation of this, folks. She has used her tongue to now get people in a position where they have to get the FBI, local police enforcement to arrest people that are threatening and plotting on their lives. This is why we'll get in a specific. And even this, again, even if you're a person who commits this sort of vile act, God still wants your salvation for you. That's the crazy part about it. There's people you think don't ever deserve forgiveness, and he does because he died for them too. So you have a woman who essentially has had Charlie Kirk's or the blame for Charlie Kirk's assassination placed upon innocent parties, whether it's Josh Hammer, whether it is Seth Dillon, Laura Loomer. I'm saying innocent because none of these people did it. Erica Kirk. And then you're going to see lastly here, even insinuating our government or possibly Trump. So Bibi Netanyahu, the Jews. So you have essentially started a forest fire. You have set ablaze. People's lives are being, at the very least, compromised, at the very worst, destroyed. Some may even lose their lives because of the words you said. Do you think Hitler was responsible for every single one of those Jews who were targeted because of their Jewishness and ethnically cleansed? Do you think he was responsible for the physical extermination, execution of these people? Correct answer is no. He did not carry out a majority of these atrocities. But you know what he is responsible for? for setting the blaze with his tongue. Yeah. Do you know that teachers, preachers, those who are commissioned to spread the gospel, they have a greater burden of responsibility. The punishment is going to be worse for that individual who is misleading and misguiding the people, who is lying to the people, who is spreading a false doctrine, a false gospel, a false Christ. Those people are going to have it worse off. So the responsibility that comes with using your mouth is not one that is ever lost. Well, ever at this point, it's not lost on me. Every day I ask God, please let your will be done. Lead me, guide me. Let your will be done. Not my, what do you want to talk about? Oh, is that going to be trendy? Oh, is that going to get traction? Oh, do people really want to hear that? I don't care. It's not up to me. It's not my thing. I didn't give me this. You understand me? Oh, I'm going to birth myself. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go build this. I'm going to go build that. No. Now, sometimes we're pulled into places we never would have expected. And other times we're called to be in the exact place we are just to do it in a different way. I just so happen to be in that second category. I was doing the same thing. I was already here. And he said, okay, now you're going to operate for me for real. Now it's going to be for my purpose and intentions, as it always was. And even if you didn't want to do it for my sake, I was going to use you anyway. I'm going to use it for my sake regardless. Candace, you're still going to get used for the sake of his end goal and his plans, because his plans are perfect and they happen to include all of us. Again, salvation was not for somebody, one body. It was for everybody, and it was perfect, and nothing needs to be added to it. For anybody whoever tries to get you to a place, they say, you got to add a little bit of this, you got to sprinkle a little bit of that, just say a little extra this, a little extra that, you got to put a little soul to the man in the back. Anybody who puts you down or gets you down that sort of train of thought, dismiss it. Test the spirits. Where's this coming from? Why you got to add to Christ? So the crucifixion wasn't enough? So I got to do extra works? The works come as a byproduct. He changes your heart when he's dwelling in you, and your desires are changing. That's the only way I can explain it, right? It's like, oh, you wanted to lose weight for most of your life, but you can't change that desire because you just love the salty snacks. You got to have the potato chips. You can't live without them Lays. You understand me? You can't live without the Lays. You can't have just one. The Oreos, you eat them in rows. 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, 4. I get it. It's the same as overnight, all of a sudden, you eat one Oreo and you, that's not right. You eat enough. Oh, no. And all of a sudden, pick up a bag of Lay's. Oh my goodness, what is that? Oh my, why is it so oily? These are fried. Oh my goodness, you're looking at the back. What is in here? This ain't even food. All of a sudden, your desires are changing from the inside out. That's how Jesus operates in the inside of us. That's how he works on our hearts, turning our heart of stone into one of flesh. You start to think to yourself, man, I know it's been since the 1980s, but I got to forgive old Billy. Billy did me wrong, but why am I still holding on to Billy? I dated him when I was in the 8th grade. Sally Mae, you were with her when you were in 6th grade. You met her in kindergarten. And here you are holding on to, oh, but she did this and she did that. And oh, she was a brother. You were children. She knew no better. Or if you were adults, your ex-husband and your ex-wife, you're going to hold on. So you're going to let the reason why you are separated from God, you're going to let the reason be because you're not willing to let go of your ex who you believe is raggedy anyway. They're so worth it that you're willing to give up everlasting life. And instead, you'd rather be weeping and gnashing of teeth. You'd rather be separate from all the goodness, unable to breathe, to even get a... You would beg just to have a finger dipped in water, just to feel a fractal of relief. You would rather have that than to forgive somebody. I'm talking to y'all as me. This is my experience. I'm like, wow, my mom and my daddy don't seem so bad no more. Look at them trying. Look at them doing their best. Look at them doing what they could from the place that they were, even if they were absolutely off the mark. That's going to be between them and God. But how I feel about them and move about them, that's going to be between me and God.